Shifting focus, midterm elections in the US on the horizon, and the battle for control of the US Congress is already heating up. As the Republicans search for a winning message, the country's President Donald Trump is turning to a familiar Cold War playbook, it seems. Trump is casting the Democratic Party as a communist threat, framing the vote as a choice between what he calls common sense and left-wing extremism. Trump has repeatedly described the Democratic Party as a, quote, communist menace. And he argues that November elections are a civilizational battle rather than a conventional political contest. During speeches at Mount Rushmore, remember, and at events marking America's 250th anniversary, Donald Trump warned that communism must be cut out like a cancer. At a separate religious gathering, he accused the Democratic left of being hardcore, godless godless communists, hardcore godless communists. He accused them of wanting to destroy traditional American way of life. This strategy coming amid the rise of socialist Democrats. In recently held Democratic primaries, Socialist Democrats have defeated established Democrats in New York and Colorado. The New York mayor, remember, is leading this socialist shift in a way within the Democratic Party. Trump is now equating democratic socialism and communism. Democrats, on the other hand, say the attack is designed to distract the voters from economic pressures, rising cost of living, and questions about Trump's own record. Let's go straight across now to Susan Teherani with us on the broadcast from New York and has been tracking those developments. Susan, what do you make of the message that's being sent out? Of course, ahead of the midterm elections, a number of questions, concerns have been doing the rounds about what the strategy really is going to look like and what the message really goes out at this point.
Yeah, this really has all to do with the midterm elections. We really see both sides talking about this ideological battle for the future of America, aside from policy and which direction America should really go to. While the president is equating communism with these recent wins by socialist Democrats in some states here in the United States, many analysts believe that he should tread cautiously, considering the fact that we did see for years the Democrats really abiding by the same playbook, calling Republicans fascists, white supremacists, going back to the Hitler era, and issues like that. And we've seen time and again that when you label the other party with these jargons, the party that's doing it doesn't necessarily do very well. Actually, most Americans are turned off by these labelings of the past. But, equating it with communism for a lot of conservative voters is going to be very familiar. Remember the Red Scare? A lot of us remember our grandfathers, for example, talking about it constantly, at the family gatherings. And so that still resonates with perhaps older Americans, and notably those that are conservative. But it's hard to imagine that this kind of messaging would resonate with Gen X, for example, and younger Americans who've traditionally have been even voting conservative or Republican, but they're seeing that things haven't changed, things aren't working out for them, and they're ready for another experiment. That's not to say that that's going to happen, but I think the Democrats are finding themselves in a position where they're saying, okay, let's widen this tent and, try to offset those communism criticisms and try to give a populist message, one that even Donald Trump gave when he won the election. So it'll be interesting to watch, but absolutely, it's all about messaging right now, perhaps more than policy from both parties, which, to be fair, none of them can really run on a successful platform at this point.
Yeah, I was just coming to that, Susan, before we let you go. You know, when you mentioned policy, because let's just talk about the way in which the war in Iran, for example, has impacted Trump's approval ratings on the ground in America and the anti-war sentiment in a way. But that's just one aspect, talking about the economic policies as well and the larger impact on the Americans on the ground. So as of now, like you're saying, it is about the optics and the messaging, because if people were to give out a report card, when it comes to the policies, there are a lot of gaps.
Absolutely. And for the Democrats as well, we saw that since President Trump came into office for a second term, for example, they have not been able to rally around a single messaging, bringing in working Americans that left their party and perhaps voted for Trump during the previous election. And so they had a messaging problem. And all of a sudden, for example, someone like Zohran Mamdani comes in New York. He's fresh, he's young, he has new ideas. They may not resonate with everyone, but you have to take into consideration these are Americans that did everything right. They went to college, they got their student loans, they applied for jobs, then they're in debt. The economy isn't doing that well. And they're looking right now and wondering whether or not the path that America was going towards is the right path. And they're willing to give this sort of socialist Democrat, sort of these candidates, a fighting chance. So we'll see where it goes. I think, the wall of resistance is too much just because of the label of socialism and something that's really not very familiar or favorable for Americans. But nonetheless, you have candidates in the Democratic Party the Democrats who are doing well are actually progressive and socialist Democrats right now, which is very interesting. Again, I think that goes back to their populist messaging.